Hello everybody, and today on Game Ideas we're heading to the gloomy world of Dark Souls to try and make a world map of not just one, not just the good ones, but all three Dark Souls games. So join me, as today we try to figure out how the Astoras and Catarinas of this perpetually ending world fit together. I love the Dark Souls franchise, putting hundreds of hours into each game in the series, and I've always been intrigued by the glimpses of other countries and lands you'd hear about in item descriptions and dialogue. However, this being Dark Souls, they don't just give you a map of these places, or even merely a direction. So when I decided to make as accurate a map as I could, I encountered quite a few problems. To start this map, we have to begin with the awkward middle child of the series, and the only map FromSoft has ever given us, the Dark Souls 2 map. Dark Souls 2 was a lot better than the other games in terms of its global geography, often giving us not only a direction, but also a distance some of these countries were from Drangleic. Talk about generous. So I laid out the lands in the directions they appeared to create this. The north was simple enough. Alhaitham Lois was already a frozen wasteland and definitely gave off the impression there wasn't much more to the north of the city, except for more snow and those god-awful lightning horses. The only other northern location is the homeland of the Varangians, who are clearly based on Vikings, so I created a fjord-filled northwestern island for them. The west was also fairly simple, with the small city-state of Volgan being the only location nearby. So the choice of making Volgan an island was easy, as there was sea to the west of Drangleic, and them being an island also explains the large number of traders and merchants, and their famously weak military. And the south was just Melfia, land of sorceries. And while not explicitly stated, the desert environment of Jugo also implies its southern location, so I placed them to the southeast. The east is where the majority of the named locations can be found, and where we have the most clues as to how these puzzle pieces fit together. Starting with Lindelt, the founders of Lindelt fled from Shulva after the city was sacked by Yorg and the Drakeblug Knights, but retained dragon worship as a core part of their society. This leads me to believe they might have settled near or even founded the Dragon Shrine. Also of note, there are very similar stone dragon wall carvings in both of these locations. Next up is Ferosa, which I initially thought about placing centrally, as they are said to be surrounded by warring neighbours. However, the fur on many of their sets, and the fact Alhaitham Lois was founded by a Ferosan, leads me to believe that it was more northern. However, this still allows several nations to border them and go to war with them, including Drangleic, Mira, the Eastern Lands, and possibly even demons, if they were coming from the west before Alhaitham Lois was founded. The fact Mira is also often at war has caused me to place it next to Ferosa. And of course, putting the Eastern Lands, homeland of Alon, at the most eastern part. Initially I thought that would be it for the maps, but then I remembered a quote from an interview with the developers, when they were talking about Dark Souls 2. The game is set in a different part of the same planet. To put it another way, if the first game was set at the North Pole, this one would be set at the South Pole. That sort of contrast. This made me think that there may be two main continents on the world of Dark Souls. At the same time, turning my Dark Souls 2 world map into something that looked like this, with two main continents. But all this reminiscing also had me thinking back to other comments I'd heard in the past, back when Dark Souls 2 first came out, about how the Land of Giants might actually be the devolved descendants of the Giants of Lordran, which inspired me to then go on and create this map. Now, the Dark Souls 1 map was never going to be that accurate, with only hints about climate and similar cultures to go off when placing these countries down, but I think this is as close as you can reasonably get. For example, I put Vinheim to the north, due to its Norse naming inspiration, and just like Drangleic of Dark Souls 2, I placed Lordran as a central superpower, bordered by smaller nations. I feel this is implied by the lore and the NPCs in the game. Now this map isn't perfect. While the Undead Asylum is implied to be outside of Lordran in-game, as you have to travel there from the asylum, I don't feel this means necessarily that it's in another kingdom, but rather it's like in a non-administered mountainous area to the north, while people don't consider part of Lordran proper would still fall within its actual borders. Another thing you might notice about the map is the Kingdom of Heidi. Isn't that a Dark Souls 2 location, you might be asking? And yeah, Kingdom was first seen in Dark Souls 2. However, in Dark Souls 2 it was a sunken ruin, and I think the lore supports that Heidi was in its prime during Dark Souls 1. The first thing you notice to support this is the very similar architecture between Anor Londo and Heidi. But beyond that, a popular fan theory being this is where Guinevere eloped with the flame god Flann, and possibly Ornstein as a bodyguard, so it would need to exist in the First Age of Fire. Also, as Gwyn created the Ring City in the First Age, I also added that to the map. Another Dark Souls 2 location is Olathis, which is another ancient past kingdom and homeland of Strayed. I had this kingdom stretch all the way from Ven, where you find Strayed, to Melfia, which is another sorcery-focused kingdom, and I feel may have been founded by the descendants from Olathis. Finally, I made Xena the predecessor of Lannifer, as these are distant, far-off places with eccentric residents. I feel it's a natural progression that Xena might have become Lannifer with time. Also, the far eastern land of Shiva obviously becoming the equally eastern-inspired eastern lands of Elon. So that leads us into the Dark Souls 3 map. Now, making the map for Dark Souls 3 was a challenge, as many parts of the game seem to come from both Dark Souls 1 and 2, which are currently two different continents on either side of the world. However, the trailer itself said, where the transitory lands of the Lords of Cinder converge. This could be taken literally to mean the two continents of the previous games are literally being dragged together by the fading flame. This led me to create this map. So to create this map, I considered the Land of Lords being predominantly that of Dark Souls 1, and Lordran becoming Lothric, and then Londor, Land of Hollows and Men, being much more similar to the human kingdoms of Dark Souls 2 in Drangleic. As you may have noticed, another feature I embedded in the maps is that the world degrades with each game. As the Age of Fire is artificially extended and the world exists far longer than it should, I try to show this with the coastlines eroding, the neat borders of the nations breaking down, and the very fabric of the material of the map deteriorating. Other than that though, the Varangians become the Millwood Knights, Thorolund becomes the equally religious Khorlan, and impressively, Karim and Katarina seem to have survived all of the Ages of Fire, somehow remaining intact from the First Age. So that's it for today's video, the very first episode of Game Ideas, where I just go over and talk about different concepts from a variety of game franchises. I think I covered all of the named locations from Dark Souls. I also don't think FromSoft had much of a map in mind at any point while developing the games, so creating this map was just as much an art as it was a science. But I will be making more videos like this, where I grasp just as many straws. So if you'd like to see that, remember to subscribe and like the video if you liked it. Also, if you have any suggestions for how I can improve any of these Dark Souls maps, or any information I missed out, leave them in the comments below. Or if you want to support the channel, or are just looking for a fun game to play, my game just came out on Steam. It's called Quest, and it is a very good time. Anyway guys, until next time, see ya.